Yo.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Hanging in there, man. We got a special guest today. We're actually real excited to be able to have him on because we tend to watch a lot of his videos too. So we got Derek here from Pigskin Addicts on today. So pleasure to have you on.
Pleasure to be here, guys. Very, very excited. This is like really my first collaboration within the Charger community. So very, very excited. And hopefully this is the first of many. So
yeah, man. Definitely.
Well, we're excited that it is the first time. That's kind of crazy to be able to hear that it's only been the first time that you've collabed with the community. So, man, we appreciate us being your first here. You know, we're excited about that.
Definitely. I couldn't pick a better podcast for my first collaboration. So yeah, let's get it.
Killer, awesome. Man. Killer.
Yeah, we're excited. We're excited to have you here too. So yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
You want to plug your channel and everything too, so everybody kind of knows where to get you and catch you and everything like that?
Yeah. So obviously here on YouTube at Pigskin_Addicts. I'm pretty much cover mostly Charger things. I will be venturing off a little more into some other topics as the off season progresses. But I'm pretty much a Charger content creator. Pretty much from A to Z. I cover different topics. I'm starting to get a little more active on Twitter as well too. So my Twitter is Pigskin_Addicts as well too. So you guys can follow me there. I'll be covering a lot of topics throughout the off season. So stay tuned for a lot of content from me.
Awesome.
Love hearing that, man. You know, it's just funny because the off season is, the off season. I mean, what do we have to talk about? Sometimes.
Right. Yeah. You got to manufacture some stuff. So
yeah. And it's just try to think of some wild ideas out there to talk about. Maybe some shock factor type stuff.
Yep.
And it's kind of tough. It's like, you gotta find other ways to be able to talk sports and such.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're just waiting for football to start up again. That's the exciting part, right?
Pretty much. Pretty much.
Spring training. Yeah, all that.
Yeah. And the way the Chargers are constructed and stuff, like we're gonna have a lot to talk about, right? There's gonna be some cuts here. There's gonna be something that's gonna have to happen here pretty soon. So we're gonna have some stuff to talk about, throughout the offseason. So
later on in our show when we start talking a little bit about the combine, that's something I want to kind of bring up. And I'm sure you've been privy to it too, and what the word is on the street.
Oh yeah,
and everything with the cap situation, obviously, and everything too. I mean, it's going to be interesting, man. It's going to be interesting.
Very.
Well, let's chat into it. Let's jump into it. Actually, if you guys want to start talking a little bit about this report card the Chargers had this week, man.
Yeah.
I mean,
Hey,
something else, right?
that's pretty bad, man. You know the old saying goes, "C's get degrees." But I tell you what, boy, we did not do well on that one, right? I think we were the lowest. We were one of the lowest rated, teams. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really,
it's
really
pretty interesting to see. I'll pull this up right now, and actually, I want to bring up this article, the Rivers Lake Yacht Club, which I think Kyle's wearing his T-shirt right now, I believe. Oh yeah, Rivers Lake.
That's right.
Pull this up. Talk about what they were saying. So once again, guys, we'll throw the link out there too on this too, so you guys can kind of check it out and everything. I'll throw it up in the chat and everything. So
yeah, it'd be good.
But so basically, the article here on Rivers Lake is F report cards.
Yeah.
So I'll give kind of a little bit of a breakdown of what I heard from this article. What he was really talking about is, bottom line, these surveys don't mean everything. It doesn't mean the total picture of what's going on within the Chargers organization. And once again, this is under 1,300 players that basically went and did this survey. So it's a good portion of the 2,000 plus players within the NFL that put their information about these questions. Now, once again, if you guys have had any sort of surveys at work, sometimes it's just yes, no answers.
Right.
Sometimes it's
Yeah.
1 through 10.
Yep.
And he was basically kind of putting in the point that, hey, don't really think that this is like the total picture of what's going on with the Chargers organization. You know, I'll beg to differ a little bit more at some point, because I think players do have a little bit of the insight on it. And I think based upon us being fans of the team, we know we have Coupon Tom as a GM. We know we have owners that are a little cheap all around and like to, go a little bit cheap on this team in some way or another. And he's been doing that for a while, up till basically last season, of going on a spending spree. I don't really know if I could really fully say, hey, look, this isn't accurate, but I will definitely say that there is definitely some truth to this. So wanted to kind of hear from you. Let's talk with you, Derek, kind of what you got from this article, some points that you kind of saw from the Rivers Lake Yacht Club's article, and kind of what you heard from this and what they were trying to portray, I should say.
So yeah, basically just reading it, I kind of got the same takeaway as you did. This is not the end all be all, but I mean, it really does raise an eyebrow, especially when it comes to the Chargers, right? We've been hearing things about the Chargers, their facilities, for a really long time. I was even hearing stuff about their facilities when they were still in San Diego. So this is not even really it's not really a surprise to me. And anybody who's like been in the area of the complex where they practice at, it looks pretty high schoolish. The first time that I drove by there, I was like, this is where the Chargers practice? I can't believe this. Like, it was like, it was something else. So it's not, looking at, the grades for the facilities and stuff, that's really not all that surprising to me. And they are building a new facility. We got to give them credit for that. But just the overall theme of the article, it's, if you're a Charger fan, you really can't be that surprised. If you're looking at other teams, right, maybe the Chiefs, I think that surprised me a little bit. But everything that we see here with the Chargers is not really a surprise. Like, I think the biggest thing that they have to do, they have to get the trust of the players, right? And I think they did some good spending some money last year. I think it's, moving in the right direction where you want to go. But I think they have like this cloud over them, right? It's kind of like the LA Clippers thing, right? Remember when the Clippers they were starting to get good, and then the Donald Sterling thing, and then all of that stuff came out, and it's like, oh, this is the first time that they've ever spent money. And you're just kind of like, wow, like, really, like you're in LA and this is the first time you've ever spent money. So they have to overcome that a little bit, but this is not all that surprising to me. And again, this is, a survey, right? You can't take too much away from it. You can't put all of your stock into this, but I do believe that a lot of the players are, I don't want to say unhappy, but they feel like, conditions can improve around there. And if conditions were to improve, I feel like that would just be a morale boost for the team, right? I think that, maybe it could result in a few more wins. I would like to think so, but
Yeah.
you can't, you can kind of take this with a grain of salt, but it was a very, very interesting thing. And this article was broken down very, very good. Basically, telling you not to, put too much stock into this. So I love reading this article, and I love the breakdown of it, the selection bias, response bias, all of that, the leading questions. I love it. It's very data driven, and it's gives you a perspective of how you should feel about this report that came out.
Yep.
It would be interesting to see what happens if they do this report again, which I'm assuming they will. The season the Chargers get the new practice facility. That new practice facility, have you seen the mock-ups? The drive,
it's ridiculous.
Looks incredible.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of this, these poor numbers are largely because of what they currently have. I mean, let's just take this for a grain of salt too, guys. We were playing football, 2 seasons ago or 3 seasons ago in a soccer stadium, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, so we're kind of like the the redheaded stepchild, whatever you want to say, right? The second-class citizen of the Rams at this point. So again, I think that's really what I took from this article as well too. Is that, look, at the end of the day, better things are coming, but right now there's some room for improvement. So,
at the same side, you're right about all that stuff. Yeah, the facility side definitely needs to be improved, but the bigger problem is that their food side was terrible and their training side was terrible. So, I mean, those are things that they could have fixed like yesterday, and and they should have. Like, honestly, why their food service and nutrition was so terrible? Like, are they giving them Popeye's chicken? Or like
beef tacos,
freaking what's going on here? Is there a trend? Like, we got terrible food inside a SoFi stadium for the fans, and now the players are getting the same kind of food. Come on, man. What's going on?
Well, and that's what I was gonna say to you, because Kyle, like, you're a season ticket holder for SoFi, and I mean, I lived in LA for 13 years. And I know what kind of food LA's got. I mean, we got great food. Whatever category of food you want, you could find it in LA. And it's top-notch restaurants.
Right.
But SoFi got, man, as a fan, I say it's an F. Just go to Thunder Alley and eat some tacos over there before the game. Pre-game there. Screw the stadium food.
Mm-hmm.
Just eat outside the stadium, please.
Yeah.
And so, if it's bad for the fans, it's going to be bad for the families that come in there to be able to watch the games. Just like the example you brought up. How many times do you think like, oh, Chargers going on a road trip? Here you go. It's like they're walking over to the bus and everything, and they're carrying some Popeyes or Raising Cane's or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, wait a minute. Like, these are multi-million-dollar athletes. And like, I mean, why aren't we getting good nutrition out here? Why aren't we really making sure their bodies are at their healthy peak? I mean, I don't know. When I eat fried food, I fall asleep. Like, I get tired.
That's right.
I get tired, man.
That food coma, man. Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't make sense. And you would think as an organization, you want them to be at top level too. And even to say the training room, how it's right here saying it's an F, like an F, tied for last. Right. In the training room. So we got injury issues, guys. And, also on top of that, our head trainer got fired. And I heard he got fired because of this survey coming out too. Like, it was already out a couple weeks before. And then boom, all of a sudden that firing happened. There are some big things out there. Once again, Derek, you brought it up perfectly. Hey, I heard the same thing about San Diego having an issue, and it just came to LA. It's almost like they brought the same philosophy, idea, brought it to LA, made it happen. I heard a crazy rumor that Qualcomm, which was eroding from the inside basically, and is a very, very outdated stadium, but I heard the field wasn't even fully grass. Some areas were dirt, and they were spraying green on there to make it look like dirt or grass, excuse me.
Okay.
To make it look like a full grass field. So I heard some crazy rumors about that.
Like they had some dead patches or something like that, and they were just painting it green. Oh my god! They didn't
want to work on it, and so wild to see. But sorry, I went on a little bit of a rant there. But there's a lot to unravel with this, guys.
Well, yeah, I mean, you said that, like they kind of brought in that mentality from San Diego to LA. Yeah. Well, I mean, 100%. Number one, we know that the training head coach training staff guy, he was with the team for 24 years. Exactly. And, he was the head trainer in San Diego before the move and everything too. So that was obviously transferred over. But then also we still have the same owners, the Spanos family are still over there, and like they're still playing like a minor league team in a lot of ways with that minor league mentality. So like we need to, get that major league, mentality going,
Yep.
Right.
No
right.
doubt.
And that it's kind of like what the Bengals went through now. The Bengals they're on top of the AFC, and it's kind of crazy because you've heard stories about Mike Brown being so cheap. I think they just got their inflatable indoor facility, was it last year or something like that, right? And they have obviously brutal winters out there in Ohio.
Right.
Like it seems all it takes is a franchise quarterback, right? You get a franchise quarterback, you start spending money, things start to come together, and you start to look like an actual NFL team. I'm just waiting for that to happen for the Chargers now. It seems like it's maybe it might be coming here pretty soon, but they have to get with the program because, like I said, it's LA Clipper-ish, right? You have to spend money to make money, and 100%. I think one of the things that a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to the Spanos family is that they make all of their money off of the Chargers, right? This is a family business for them. Like, you see a lot of these owners, the David Tepper, even the I can't remember the other guy, but they make money, outside of football, right? So they come in with this aggressive mindset. They're ready to spend money. This is like a mom and pop shop, right? This is what they've been doing for, the past, 30 years or whatever, right? And it's kind of status quo. And you see the big jump in marketing of the NFL, how much money these teams actually make now. So people are looking at them with the microscope and like, why aren't you spending money? When they're comfortable doing what they've been doing for the past, 30 years or whatever. But now it's really being looked at. You see Justin Herbert all over TV, right? You see him on billboards, all throughout the Southland, right? From LA to San Diego. You see his face everywhere, and you're wondering, why aren't you spending money now? And I think a report like this kind of really shows ownership. Okay, we need to work on some of these things, right? We need to work on some of this. And just like you said, some of this stuff is really, really fixable. Training room, right? You can upgrade that easily. You can do that in a weekend, right? By the time the players come in, the next time, right? Maybe a couple of weeks from now, the training room can be upgraded. So there's like little small things that they can really, really do. But they have to do them though. You have a quarterback like Justin Herbert, right? You don't get guys like this all the time. You have to make this happen. And you have to make the Chargers the most attractive place that it possibly can be.
100%.
Agreed. And I mean, even to go to their locker room situation, how it does look like high schoolish. It's like little cubbies, basically.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, when I see people that are doing like the tours at SoFi and they're like, wow, look at this locker room. And I'm like, well, if you look at the Rams locker room, I mean, that looks like, dude, plush looking. They got like extra little like cubby areas. It just looks like a real legit looking like locker room, which I think ironically got kind of a bad grade, which is kind of strange to me to see that. But either which way, I don't think we have that good of looking a facility being in a multi-billion-dollar based, stadium. I mean, it's very, very high school like.
Yeah.
And
$5 billion. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild to see that. But what I'm basically trying to portray here is that they got a lot of work to do, and hopefully that new facility will be able to alleviate a lot of these issues. I mean,
I agree.
Even to say their current like headquarters in Costa Mesa, just like what you talk about the practice field, if you haven't been there. Yeah, essentially, I used to live in Costa Mesa for a year. That literally was just some sort of random field. It wasn't like, I don't even think it was used for anything other than maybe like soccer games or something like that.
Wow.
And it wasn't like super good grass or anything like that. I mean, the Chargers did a little bit of upgrading there and everything too, but it's not like a major, actual NFL level type facility by any means. And so there will be some big upgrades. 2024 is when that new facility in El Segundo will open up. It'll be really awesome to be able to see how that looks for the Chargers. And, also even for free agents too. I mean, going to where that facility is at in Costa Mesa, I mean, it's literally in a business district right next to an IKEA and like the freeway.
Yeah.
Like it's not like in the best of area. It's just kind of a real like random little place, in my opinion, to be able to put an NFL franchise headquarters at. So this new facility hopefully will be highly upgraded. Hopefully they'll throw a lot more money. And then the next report card, we're going to start looking well. Oddly enough, I think it's crazy that the A+ was the Minnesota Vikings. Bringing that up because people said, do these facilities make these teams winners? Well, Minnesota Vikings is A+, right? They haven't won a Super Bowl, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
It doesn't matter, but in the same side, it does matter on free agents. It does matter on player treatment. It does matter on how nutrition-wise of a player seems very simple to be able to do something like that and how their families are treated. So I think that all around, if you have a good experience with the whole ecosystem that they've put underneath this survey, it'll get you a better organization as a whole. And I think Brandon Staley is doing that to be able to try to get this organization to more of a pro-based level type organization. And Derek, I know there was a video that you had on your channel talking about, Brandon Staley's got to go. And that was a couple months ago. And then obviously we got to the playoffs and everything like that. Kind of want to hear your take a little bit about what Brandon Staley's been doing so far with this organization.
He's been up and down for me. I like him. I do. I really like him, but sometimes there is some questionable things, right? When it comes to his coaching, I think he has to do some adjusting now, coming into year 3. And this is something I'm going to get into like later on in throughout the offseason. The defense has been an issue, and I think at this point right now it is the scheme, and that's something I'm gonna get into a little bit on my channel. This scheme has been used like pretty much by all of the teams who play that 3-4, who are kind of like in the playoff mix. I know you mentioned the Vikings. The Vikings use the Fangio defense as well too. It needs there has to be some adjusting, some fixing going on, and he's supposed to be a very, very bright defensive mind. So I'm expecting to see some adjustments being made because the scheme to me is just not working now. As far as his communication and the relationship that he has with the players, it seems positive, right? So he's not a guy, he's not, bringing that toxic energy in the locker room, right? He's not somebody who, needs to go right now, right? He's not somebody where the players would, give a round of applause if he was fired. I don't think he's that bad, but, I do think that this is a window that the Chargers have right now. I thought last year was the best time to strike. They're still the window's open now still, but they absolutely must get better on defense. The defense is an issue. I do think that they need to adjust a little bit. And I'm going to get into it a little bit on my channel, but the Fangio defense, the Eagles played the Fangio defense. They played the Fangio defense in the Super Bowl, and the Chiefs, they really exposed it. And it was a very, I watched the tape. It was a very simple thing. All they did was overload sides with motion. And because there's deep zones, there's not enough guys to cover. Somebody's always going to be open, right? And if you have a good quarterback, it's barbecue chicken. So there has to be some
barbecue chicken
adjustments going on.
Barbecue chicken.
Defensively, it's just too simple. It's very, very simple. And I don't know, man. It's just that's something that worries me. Again, I have to give him a chance, and I have to give him, the opportunity to learn from his mistakes. I think the new defensive coordinator, Derek Ainsley, I think he can bring some value to this team as well too. But ultimately, the microscope is going to be on him this year. When you think about it, the Chargers, they have cleaned house, coaching staff, right? There's going to be a new athletic trainer coming as well too. So the excuses are going by the wayside. So, he has to produce now. He's going to have to produce in his 3rd year. And I'm hoping for the best. I really am. I'm coming into the 2023 season with a clean slate, right? I'm going to judge him on how he does from 2023 on. What happened last year. So just moving forward, I want to see some improvement. They don't have to be the best defense in the world, but I just want to see that they're going to be able to get better and obviously be able to cause problems for other teams defensively, right? That hasn't been something they've been able to do over the past couple of years. So if they're able to do that, I think they'll be fine, and I think he'll be fine. But improvement, does need to be made.
I got some interesting thoughts on that. I was actually thinking about this morning. I read an article that was kind of interesting. It was talking about Mike McCarthy. He said, did Mike McCarthy actually make the Charger fans fall in love with Kellen Moore even more? Because basically Mike McCarthy came out and said, I really don't want to light up the scoreboard because I want to give my defense a rest. And I'm like, what a stupid comment.
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, okay, I understand the concept of making the other team, all right, well, but are you going to take plays off? Let's just run the ball. Let's do Marty ball or whatever. I mean, come on. Kellen Moore wants to light up the scoreboard. So my prediction is I think Kellen Moore will probably, let's say we don't make the playoffs, hypothetically speaking, Kellen Moore will probably save Brandon Staley's job just because I think our offense is going to be that good. No matter what, we're going to score. And it'll be interesting to see how long Kellen Moore even stays a coach. He'll be a head coach next season is my other prediction as well, too. Right. Because he's just that good of a coach, and he's such a good mindset of understanding how to expose defenses, just exactly like you were discussing. So that's my prediction. But I think that was probably the best offseason hire that Brandon Staley made. And he jumped on that damn fast, boy. He was let go by the Cowboys, and it was like instantaneous. He was over with us. So I thought it was pretty cool.
It's funny. I actually made a video on that last night.
Did you really?
Yeah, about Kellen Moore because I was watching some Cowboy tape, and I was just looking at how balanced he is as a play caller. And to your point, the Mike McCarthy comments, I thought Mike McCarthy was he high or something because he said he wanted to light the scoreboard up, and he said that he wants to run the ball, but when you go back and you look at the stats, the Cowboys were 6th as far as rushing attempts go. And they were in the middle of the pack passing attempts. They were balanced, extremely balanced. So I don't know what Mike McCarthy was talking about. And the last time we seen Mike McCarthy call plays in Green Bay, things did not look very, very well. So that's why I was just like, what? So I went back and I started looking at some tape. And Kellen Moore is a very, very talented play caller. I think it was one of the best hires. I think the hire was so good that if Brandon Staley is not producing, it could really put some of his job security in jeopardy because if you're the Chargers, right, you look for coaches who are going to take, less money, right? But Kellen Moore would be a first-time head coach, right? This is all hypothetical. If Brandon Staley was to be let go and you can have a head coach hire in Kellen Moore, he would be a first-time head coach, but he would be a head coach who would have 5 years of play calling experience, right? That's very, very hard to find. So he would still be a guy that's on a very, low number contract, but a guy with a lot of experience, a guy who has, shepherded really top 10 offenses in Dallas. And when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, right, their offense and all this stuff, like, yes, they have talented players, but for them to do that year in and year out, and I tweeted something after he got hired, in the past 2 seasons, the Cowboys have scored 40 points 8 times. The Chargers have done it 4 times. And, it's something when you keep putting up points on the board, right? That's how you win in the modern NFL. So this whole thing about McCarthy, the wanting to play keep away and all of this stuff, that's not going to work. We're going to be playing against Patrick Mahomes. We got to outscore him. That's just what it is, right? Doesn't matter how good our defense is. They're going to score points. We need to score more. So he's in the perfect place. Kellen Moore is in the perfect place. He's going to get a very, very good look at head coaching opportunities, maybe even with us, right? Depending on how the season goes. So,
I have one last thought, and then we'll pass to James and Kyle. It was interesting. So I asked myself this question: what has higher value in coaching right now, offense or defense? I would argue offense right now. Offensive head coaches are becoming more and more important because you said it perfectly. The defense can get exposed with the way the modern NFL is just constructed, right? So there's more value for an offensive-minded head coach than a defensive-minded head coach because if you think about that, that's a big part of it. So I think that's why Kellen Moore's values can be so high. Let's say he brings our offense to like top 5. And we're like one of the highest scorers, one of the best red zone offenses. Man, there is no chance he doesn't become a head coach somewhere else next year. So, or as you said, if the season goes bad and the offense looks amazing, he'll step in as the new head coach for Brandon Staley. So I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat as well, too? I know we got some people rolling in. Larry, I really like this comment as well, too. This is perfect. So 100%. So I'll pass to James and Kyle on that thought.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of Kellen Moore, and based upon watching his scheme, he even said in his introductory press conference, he said, "Hey, man, sometimes speed's great, but it's not really the full picture."
100%.
And I think that's kind of the reason why, we're going to keep Keenan Allen, we're going to keep Mike Williams around here because those guys are very reliable for us when they are on field. That is,
the big win.
That makes a big difference. But even to say at the running back level of things, it's, Tony Pollard out there, Ezekiel Elliott really was RB2, in my opinion, Tony Pollard really was the guy. But the thing is, though, Tony Pollard might have actually been a beneficiary of the system more than anything, because they did a lot of motion, 2 running back sets. Andrew and I, when we were watching games, are like, guys, can we just see some motion at the line?
Yeah.
Roll out a guard, roll out your left tackle, roll out, just help your player succeed. Bottom line. We felt like this offense, Joe Lombardi, which ironically is with Denver now, if he's got any play or anything like that, if he's making the play calls, oh boy. I mean, Denver, come on now. What are you doing? But what I'm saying here is that we got a guy that's really going to be able to put players in winning situations, not just a wide receiver out in the flat. Hey, it's on you. Maybe there's one blocker against 3 guys. You're not going to win. That's not winning football. Kellen Moore puts players in winning situations, and that's what I'm very, very excited about. He's putting players in the right position to be able to do the right thing, to be able to get extra yards after catch. Speed would be great. I get it, 100%. I think when we really missed Guyton heavily this year to really spread the field ball downfield or get downfield routes going on. But I think scheme makes a big difference. Joe Lombardi was very, very simple and very much on the player to make a play. So what's your thoughts, Kyle, on that? And then we probably should jump over and talk a little bit about the combine. I know we're kind of going off the rail
for sure. I mean, I've said this a couple times. I'm really just excited to see some mother effing adjustments in the freaking second half of the dang game, you know? Like, I mean, I swear they were just doing the exact same thing over and over. And like, how many defensive players have said that after they played us? They're like, yeah, we just figured out what they were doing and we just played like 1 or 2 different types of defensive plays, and we were able to stop them every single time because you know that's exactly what Joe Lombardi did not do, is make adjustments. You know, he just like, this is what I'm doing, and that's how we're gonna make it work. You know.
Yeah. Well, square peg, round hole, man. It always doesn't fit, and that's the thing that I think that Joe Lombardi was all about. That just, I'm gonna keep doing the same thing, but it's not really working at all. Square peg, round hole, and you know, we lost that playoff game because we didn't have a run game, and so was it the players or was it the scheme? I'll say it's the scheme in my opinion. But sorry I jumped in there.
No, it's fine. No, I mean, you're just reiterating the point, you know, because like, and it's just straight up idiocracy. I mean, I don't know if you ever saw that movie. You know, there was like that, you know, that it was that IQ test, and like, and they had those square pegs in the round hole, you know, and apparently like, you know, our guy was like, you know, I don't know. And so it's just like, I'm just excited to see some adjustments being made. But to kind of go back a little bit further, to Pigskin, you were talking about how Brandon Staley, like, a lot of our problems is the defense as well, because like it seems like some of the plays might be a little too complicated or something like that, you know, because and I'm hoping to see some adjustments on that side as well, because we kind of talked about it briefly, but it was really interesting to see that when Derwin James went down, our defense was actually like instrumentally better, like all across the board, and that's something that we gotta, hopefully they'll recognize, be like, maybe Derwin James just has too many assignments in one play, and so just let him cook in what he's best at, and then let everybody else cook at what they're best at. And hopefully that's something that they need to recognize and make an adjustment for it in this offseason.
Yeah. Yep. 100%.
Yeah, and I think that would be a pretty good segue to talk about the combine, if you guys have been paying attention to the underwear Olympics.
That's right.
You know,
I love that underwear. It's pretty funny. I'm like, wow, that's really tight outfits.
I mean, if I was out there in the underwear Olympics, maybe I would run a 4 or 5 or something. I highly doubt that I'll pull a handy midway, but you know, it helps. It helps, but you know, and that's the thing. Like, we do have a lot of adjustments that we will be making on defense. Derek Ainsley, and once again, I'm going to clarify for you. We talked about an article earlier this week that there was going to be no coaching staff there, and you know, Telesco wasn't going to be there, Brand Staley wasn't going to be there. Really random article. They were there, but I have not seen them for the amount of time that I've watched in the combine, being at the combine. I did see Derek Ainsley there eyeing a lot of cornerbacks. Like, he was like just sitting there, just staring at their dude's feet before they're on their launch point, basically on the 40. And so there is coaching staff there. It's just probably more of a limited fashion, more or less.
Yeah.
So Speedo's Olympic.
Well, and to your point though, James, too, like it's on TV. You could be watching it, and then everyone's going to get the film. They can see it anytime they want. They can see it anytime. And it costs money to get these people there, right? And so it's cold there, man. It's cold. We're from LA, dude. You don't want to go to Indy right now. Come on now.
Well, maybe that's also the Spanos is being a little cheap too. They're like, we don't want to pay tickets and hotels for all these dudes too. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe just going back earlier conversation on the report card that we had. Maybe it was kind of they just were being cheap. But then again, you could watch it on TV and find the same information that you were looking for, and I guarantee they get all the footage given to them. That they could look at any player and they probably segment it into each player that you could say, hey, XYZ player, this is what they got going on with the bench. This is what they got going on the 40s, so on and so forth. So why be there? I mean, people are just sitting there hanging out, eating popcorn in the stands, or whatnot. But I get the conversations with the GMs. Like you could talk with the GMs. You can see what they're talking about, plans that they're looking to do, trades, things like that. I get it. But I think you could probably knock that out in a day or two. At least you don't have to be there 100%. For 4 days
100%.
Staring at the same thing when your eyes are crossed, sitting here like, dude, I've seen this before already 1,000 times. I'm done, so, but as this draft is coming up, which is going to be interesting, we got a good amount of picks here. A lot of people are throwing out a lot of offensive ideas. A lot of people, in my opinion, I'm kind of looking at the defense. I'm with Derek on it. I think there's some things on defense we could really add to this team. I don't know what you guys' thoughts, and maybe I'll just start with you, Derek. Have you been paying attention to the combine, kind of seeing what's going on? What's kind of your thoughts for, say, pick 1, pick 2? I've been throwing out some ideas, but I want to hear from you first, since you are our esteemed guest for the day.
Well, yeah, I've been definitely been paying attention to the combine. And this is interesting. I made a video again about it last night. To me, the obvious choice is, and if he's going to be there, but it's Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith had, I think, the best overall performance at the combine. That dude is an alien, and he was just coming off of an injury too. He didn't even play in the national championship game. He was injured, and for him to have this combine performance was amazing. And I looked at him, and when the video does come out, I compared him to Micah Parsons a little bit, right? This is a guy that you can do a lot with, right? What defensive ends are running 4-3, right? This is a guy can really do a lot of different things with, right? You can have a lot of different packages, right? He can rush from, the middle of the field, right? Like a linebacker, right? You can line him up as a linebacker, right? You can put him in coverage if you want to. There's a lot of different things you can do with him. And I like him because he's not a scheme fit guy, right? He can fit in any scheme, 3-4, 4-3, whatever you want to play. He's a guy that can fit. Now, because of his performance, I don't know if he's going to be there at 21, right? When you're looking at mock drafts and all of this stuff, a lot of people had reservations about him because he got injured. And if he didn't have this performance, I think he maybe would have been there, but I don't know. And it's unlikely that the Chargers go and trade up. But if he is there, that is the guy. That's my guy that I want to take.
Right.
Now, as far as the offense goes, I think the Chargers got really, really lucky with a lot of the wide receiver performances. A lot of people were expecting some of the wide receivers to come in and have like really blazing 40 times, 4.2s and stuff like that. I'm looking at a guy like Jalen Hyatt from Tennessee. Everything that I looked at, right? I started watching him early in the season. I seen Tennessee was going to be good. He ran, I think, 4.42. His tape, he is a legitimate 4.2 guy when he's actually playing football. I don't know if he's a track player, but he has easy speed. He looks like Randy Moss running a little bit. His strides look like Randy Moss. He's an easy 4.2 guy when he's actually playing. But his performance, a guy like Zay Flowers as well too. Those guys are going to drop a little bit. And I think one of those guys is going to be there in the second round. I think the Chargers are going to be able to get a value pick in the second round. Now, if Nolan Smith is there in the first round, then yes, you're obviously going to have one of the best drafts that you've had in a really, really long time if you're able to get a Nolan Smith and a Jalen Hyatt. It's unlikely though. But I do think that they will be able to have some type of value pick within the first couple of picks. I think they have to just draft. If Nolan Smith isn't there, you got to draft for a need, right? You have to get a need, and whoever that is, I've seen some mock drafts that have us taking an offensive tackle. If Trey Pipkins is not in the mix to be re-signed, then yes, I can see that happening maybe. But I think they just have to fill a need with the first pick. It's got to be somebody who can come in and play right away. I think you have to, at all costs, Tom Telesco has to avoid the Isaiah Spiller situation. He has to avoid the JT Woods situation. You can't bring guys in that are not going to do anything. So I think they're going to draft a need guy, somebody who can come in and play right away. It's going to help, try to strengthen his job security. If nothing else, right? It try to help strengthen his job security. Him drafting another Pro Bowler in the first round or whatever. But I think you got to take somebody based off of need, right? If you don't have your guy, if he's not there, take a need and then try to find some value in the second round. Maybe a tight end will be there. I don't know. There's just a lot of there's a lot of players that can contribute to the Chargers, but I think you have to really, really draft based on need because there are some holes on both sides of the ball, right? If we're being honest, right? You have to draft somebody who's going to come in and contribute right away, right? You want to avoid the project picks. I don't think the Chargers can afford any of those now, especially with the salary cap looking the way that it is. No more projects. Got to find people who are going to come in and help right away.
Yeah. Good point. I was actually just going to say one thing on that. It's interesting because I keep seeing a lot of people talk about Bijan Robinson, running back, and then obviously Zay Flowers, right? And again, I think you're exactly right. The first pick has to be a day one starter no matter what, right? And again, we all know that whatever's going to happen in free agency, getting under the salary cap, who we lose in that situation, how we get rid of those players. It might be a linebacker first, might be an offensive lineman first. If we don't re-sign Pipkins, it might be get the best lineman, get the best right tackle you possibly can, because you got to keep our crown jewel, which is we know Justin Herbert upright and throwing the ball. And we also know that Kellen Moore really likes to run very heavy jumbo sets. He likes a lot of 2-3 tight end sets a lot. So that's kind of why I keep thinking tight ends probably, no matter what, we're going to draft the tight end. I promise you we're going to draft the tight end at some point. It just boils down to when that's going to be.
Yeah.
But going back to the combine, and I'll pass to Kyle. The bottom line, it's so funny to me because these guys are out running and they're doing their thing. Oh, that's not a great number. They jump up and hit the little sticks and all this little agility drills. And I sit back and say to myself, like, does that really matter? We've already had scouts look at these players for their entire career, right? Going back to actually having people travel, is how they perform at that moment really going to make that big of a difference? Now, I will say this one thing. I did watch the quarterbacks from yesterday, and the guy. Why am I drawing a blank? The guy from Florida. His stock went way up.
Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, Richard Richardson. Yeah. His stock went way up. Like he's looked really good in the combine. So, yes, I think it can hurt you a little bit, but it can also help you a little bit. But again, they've got such a huge body of work. You never really know how that plays out, right? But you're right. Day one, you need a starter. First pick has to be a banger. 100% day one starter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, Kyle?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I'm actually leaning towards offensive line first round straight away. Not necessarily offensive line actually or defensive line. So Trench is going to be first round pick again, for third year in a row.
Yeah.
It worked last time, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And how lucky did Telesco get with Jamari?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, holy smokes, he saved that season, 100%.
Yeah. Absolutely saved the season for sure. And that was going to be my thoughts. Because Jamari Sawyer in a lot of ways is kind of like a wild card player. And that's right. I know you got that. he's such a wild card player because he could be injected into like seemingly any position on the line, and he should be able to step up in a big way. And so because of that, I'm thinking it's like, well, a lot of my picks are going to depend on what happens in the free agency. Like a lot of us do think that Filer's going to get let go. And if he does, they could put Jamari Sawyer at left guard, or they can draft a guard and then put Sawyer at the right tackle. And, kind of as a backup to Pipkins, or even to be the guy and Pipkins can be his backup or something, depending on how training camp plays out, So we have like, when you're playing like poker or Uno for that matter, and you got you need to kind of complete a little set there. You got a couple options there. You got some runners here. So like, I don't know if you can get a tackle and then you can move people around, or you can get a guard and you can move Salyer around to where he needs to be. And so that's kind of where I'm thinking. And so because of that, I mean, I really like Osiris Torrance as a guard. And I think it was Anton Harrison for tackle. I think that was his name here. I got it right there. Yeah, Anton Harrison, or potentially even Broderick Jones. I'm going to be putting little videos up for them here later on today. I think they're actually performing not performing. Their Underwater Olympics is today, right? For all those guys. So I'm keeping my eyes on those
tackles. Yeah.
What's going on right now?
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
And one thing that Daniel Janner talked about in the combine today too, he said basically, look, he said you want offensive linemen that can play different positions. Look at Zion Johnson.
Yeah.
He can play center, he can play guard, he can play pretty much anywhere, right? And that's the linemen I think that have a ton of value. And you look at who went to the Super Bowl last season, the Chiefs and the Eagles, by far the best defensive lines and offensive lines in the league, right? And so that makes a huge difference, man. I mean, I know it's not a sexy pick. We all want wide receivers. We want tight ends, people scoring up, a ton of points. But you got to get holes for your running backs. I mean, I had an argument not an argument, but a discussion with one of the videos, and like, oh yeah, our running game was horrible. But I'm like, but our line didn't make holes for our running backs to run through, right? That's the other part of the conversation. So that's huge. That's huge.
And go back to your point, Kyle, talking about offensive line. So I've seen that Chargers have already interviewed 2 guys that are offensive linemen. So McClendon Curtis, offensive line for Chattanooga, Senior Bowl standout, routinely sent scouts to his games in 2022. Kind of a late round kind of guy. Maybe they're kind of hoping it's going to be a diamond in the rough. And to me, why Jamari Salyer got to the 6th round still is mind-boggling in my opinion.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
McClendon Curtis, he basically could work up and down the line too. So Chargers love to have that versatility kind of guy. Another one was John Michael Schmitz, which is actually one of the top guards in this draft. He's an offensive lineman from Minnesota, top run blocker, rated at 92.6. So they are looking at O-line guys. Right. I remember when we did our stream last year for the draft, and then they're like, all right, here's our pick. Zion Johnson. Who the hell is that? We didn't even know. We didn't even know.
Not even on our radar at all.
So, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if they just go that way. And I understand the idea behind that. Like, you want to protect your crown jewel, basically. You want to protect Herbert. You want to make the run game better, which is why a lot of people want Bijan Robinson, which I get it. People have said he could be a generational talent. We'll see what happens in his combine today and everything like that. But we do have one of the top running backs in the league right now, by the way. Like, we got pretty good. Yeah, he's pretty solid, by the way.
2 years of over 20 touchdowns. Yeah.
Hey, he's a touchdown machine. That's what you want, right? Yep. I mean, the guy is a versatile player. He's not a true running back. He's more of like a pass catcher with the running back skill set. But either which way, if we could just open up holes and get guys that could block better for us, that's all that really matters. Now I'm going to bring up guys that I think, and once again, Derek, you brought up Nolan Smith. Great pick. And that's one guy I had written down here too. Why I think that's a great pick, because I keep hearing a lot of whispers that it's odd to think about Khalil Mack getting released. I don't know if you've heard some of that, but I just went on over the cap and just to look at it and say, hey, if it gets released, guess what? We save almost about $20 million on the cap.
Immediately.
It's weird to think about. We gave up a 2nd round pick essentially because we did trades with the Bears later in the rounds and everything. So it essentially meant just a 2nd round pick for us.
Right.
I mean, he's a leader. Leader. He played consistent for us. Probably was he was our stability on the defensive line, basically, for us.
Right.
But was it just a 1-year rental at this point? I mean, and the business decision does get involved. Nolan Smith would be a plug and play kind of player for us at that point.
Absolutely.
Right.
And would get us a little bit younger. I've been saying we're going to get younger on this defense because, we kind of have to. And I'm going to pick another guy. And I've been saying this with my brothers that I think this guy would be an awesome fit. at the linebacker level, because once again, Kenneth Murray, I don't know if we're going to pick up the 5th-year option for the guy. I don't even know if we're going to have Drew Tranquil back, by the way. That leaves a gaping hole there.
True.
I'm going to even throw in something else too. Jeff Howard, who was a cornerback coach for the Browns, is now our linebacker coach. Why is he a linebacker coach? Well, we got to get better at the pass protection on the linebacker level. He wants to teach them to be better at pass protecting. How many times did we watch Kenneth Murray get burned on a pass play? I mean, it's
every
frequent.
game.
Every game. Well, that's
every
the thing.
game.
You know, we talked about it. Kenneth Murray is not a pass protection linebacker at all.
Nope.
Not even in his college days. He was a plug in that B hole, A hole, kind of guy. You know.
Yeah, he was, and that's the thing. Oklahoma highlights he was attacking the line, attacking the running back. He wasn't out pass protecting.
Yep.
Now, once again, I do get a little leery about this pick for that reason, because sometimes I think it's shades of Kenneth Murray, but the stats tell me a little bit differently. But I think Trenton Simpson from Clemson as a linebacker adds a lot of speed to this defense, a versatile guy who's kind of like a Derwin James kind of guy that attacks the line and has great pursuit to the quarterback. And he ran I think it was a 4.5 is what they had as an unofficial. Yeah. The official was 4.43 speed official. You said that Nolan Smith reminds you of Michael Parsons. I don't know. I kept looking at Trenton Simpson thinking he looks like Micah Parsons. So maybe we got 2 Micah Parsons in this draft. And so the thing about it is he could play well in the linebacker level. I think he could play a little bit in the edge too for us too. I think, and once again, he, as a quarterback, in pass protection, he's only given up 336 yards in 2 seasons total in the pass protection. That's pretty good. That's pretty good all around.
Really good for college.
Great for college, right?
Yep.
And so, to me, he just seems like that other piece that we could start putting around everywhere on the line. We could maybe keep Derwin in the backfield, or we could push him to the line too. I mean, it was who was it? Was it Bill No, not Bill Belichick. Oh gosh, it's one of the guys on ESPN. He did a video about Derwin James. He says, "Man,
Brian Bullock.
Brian Bullock." He brought up and he said, "Hey, Derwin should play more at the line. He should be more aggressive at the line, getting sacks. He should probably get 12 sacks a year, in my opinion."
Yep.
You know, he's got a lot of speed. He's one of our fastest guys on the defense. So adding a guy like Trenton Simpson kind of reminds me a little bit sometimes of how he pursues like Kenneth Murray, but I think he's a little faster at getting after the quarterback. I think he's way better at pass protection. But he also kind of reminds me of that Isaiah Simmons guy that the Cardinals ended up getting, that versatile piece that kind of didn't really work out. And we burned him quite a bit when we played him in Arizona, by the way. Yeah. He gave up two touchdowns in that game. But Trenton Simpson, to me, seems like a great guy. He could be a guy that falls into the second round, maybe early second round. But that's one guy I really had a big eye on. And sorry, I'm going on a rant here, but Darnell Washington. I mean,
dude.
That guy, dude, 6'7", 264. The guy ran what was it, 4.5 something, I think is what he ran. Yep. Maybe it's a high 4.5. When you watched him do the blocking drill on the sled, he was moving that thing around like he was carrying just a baby in a cart, like a carriage. Dude, it was like no big deal. No big deal. It was so easy to be able to work with. And that one-handed catch to end off the tight end drills was insane. I mean, if you have him with Parham, two tight ends that are 6'7", 6'8"-ish, that's a matchup nightmare, guys. Like, so that's just what I got from the combine. I think there's some really good talent for us to really pick off here, and even some late round tight ends. Like if you put in Sam Laporte from Iowa, you know, he once again, I take the underwear Olympics as a grain of salt, because once again, I feel on field, pads, helmet is a different type of game than run around in your underwear. But Sam Laporte looked pretty good too. Maybe he could even be that second coming of George Kittle, being an Iowa guy. You know,
Iowa tight ends always live up to expectations.
100%. So I think the thing is, though, everybody wants a fast wide receiver. Dude, you nailed it on the head, Derek. I mean, you could probably get a guy in the second round. I think there's even some third round talent and even some fourth round guys that I've even been digging into that if you want speed, you could find speed.
Oh, yeah.
You could find speed easy. So that's my thoughts of what I saw from the combine. So any other comments, questions on that?
Yeah, Kyle, what are you thinking there?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack on that.
100%. I went off on that one, guys.
Yeah, it's all good.
I've been writing a lot of notes on players.
No, it's good.
Into older players in the 5th, 6th, 7th round if you want, dude.
You know, I think the biggest thing that we got to look at when it comes to these offensive players is like, you know, what does Kellen Moore want? That's the biggest thing. And I looked at, you know, even his guy, Dalton Schultz, as tight end, who's a free agent now. He only has about 500 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns on last year. And I'm like, okay, so does Kellen Moore actually utilize the tight ends for receiving very often? Or because it seemed like, I mean, because, you know, Everett, he had like, you know, almost like, you know, 800 yards and like, you know, 7 touchdowns. And so like, even then, it seemed like maybe not Justin Herbert was not throwing it to the tight ends very often, or Lombardi is not making schemes for tight ends very often. So, and that was a comment from, I think DZ last time. He was saying it's like, yeah, I mean, like Kelsey was like a 3rd round pick and Kittle was like a 5th round pick. And so we can get some serious value out of tight ends later in the draft. I don't know if we need to use the 1st round pick for a tight end. But even though, like, you know, Darnell Washington, man, he freaking increased his stock very high.
Massive.
Yeah. So, and then, you know, I mean, I'm really curious, like, it's so risky for us to draft a 1st round running back. I mean, obviously, you know, we got the most amazing running back ever 1st round, LaDainian Tomlinson. And then we had probably one of the let's see, I don't know if he was the worst, but it was kind of a bad situation. Melvin Gordon being a 1st round draft pick.
You could say Matthews before that.
Ryan Matthews too.
Matthews too.
So so we are 1 for 3 as far as drafting running backs in the 1st round. So
and the NFL doesn't like running backs anymore, right? I mean,
that's the biggest thing.
It's a passing league, right? And and Telesco specifically said this: we are going to always pass the ball more than run the ball.
Right.
And because we got Justin Herbert, right? It's different if you're again, Kellen Moore had Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott is not Justin Herbert. Herbert is a way better quarterback.
Oh yeah.
So I would rather put the ball in Herbert's hands than in a running back's hand that could potentially fumble the ball. We all know that Herbert's very accurate. He's good. But this is a great point by Optimus Rhyme, and we'll pass to you, Derek. Any wide receiver you draft is going to fight for the wide receiver 3 spot at best, and that's a really good point, right? Because I also think, you know, again, I always think get best available, but also, do you really need a wide receiver right now? We got a lot of money going to wide receivers right now, guys. A lot of money. And so you could probably wait, maybe get somebody in depth, you know, down the 4th or 5th round, maybe something like that, but not 1st, 2nd, 3rd, in my opinion. So,
sure.
But I think that's where tight ends kind of make a lot of sense to me, right? Because you get both the running ability, passing ability, blocking ability, helping the running game. It's more versatile, in my opinion. So, anyways, I'll pass to you there, Derek.
I mean, you also got to look at free agency as well, too. I think a lot of people are completely ignoring that, too. You got to look. I know he's controversial. Odell Beckham is going to be available, and he's going to be available at a discount price.
I like him.
That's the speed guy.
Yeah.
McCole Hardman is going to be available too as well. Like, those are 2 guys that are going to be reachable because these next contracts that they get are not going to be huge contracts. They're going to be kind of prove it contracts. And to go out there, be able to stretch the field with Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, that's something that you can really look at. And if the Chargers were to do that, you can fully focus this draft on, you know, maybe the trenches, right? Offensive line, defensive line. You can really focus there without having to, you know, maybe we should get a speedy receiver here, there, whatever. Like, and like I said, unless you're getting like a Jalen Guyton or Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee, a guy who can like really burn down the field, right? And like, unless you're getting somebody like that, then I would kind of stay away, because also these guys are small too, right? We don't know how their bodies are going to adjust to the NFL. Hyatt, I think, is like 5'11", 180. Zay Flowers is like 170. It's like, imagine taking hits in the NFL. So, like, how are their bodies? Are these guys going to adjust to the NFL? I think that's where free agency has the upper hand, because you know that these guys have been in the league for a while, right? They can, handle the wear and tear of a 17-game season. So I'm looking for maybe the Chargers to do something there, get a guy that's established. Possibly there are going to be some receivers out there. Even you look at a guy, I loved him coming out of the combine. I loved him coming out of Ohio State too. The guy that plays for the Colts, I think his name is it Paris? Is it Johnson? Paris Johnson, I believe. I think he's Paris Johnson. Yep. Yeah, I think he ran like 4.32 at the combine. He's a burner. Those guys are going to be available for discount prices. So if you're looking for a speed receiver, I think you got to look there first before you use some valuable draft capital, taking a guy who may or may not, live up to the hype.
Yep. You bring up a good point. I think the trenches is really where we have to start winning, and we are not winning in that right now, both sides of the ball. I want to talk about Original One's question here real quick, and just a little side topic, but watching Herbert struggle with that Allen Williams is difficult to watch. You know what's interesting about that to me? The reason why that was the case is because of Lombardi's offense specifically, right? It was his whole offense was built on 5-yard outs, just move the chains, move the chains, move the chains. You can't do that with other people besides Allen and Williams. When they went down, the whole playbook went out the window. And Lombardi was not smart enough to make a change and adjust. So, anyways, I just wanted to answer his question real quick. Original One, that was a good question. So,
well, no, he did adjust. Remember, he just he made all of his plays 10 yards out and then come back.
Curl
routes. That's right.
All day.
No crossing routes at all. That's what Kellen Moore.
Yes, it was.
Kellen Moore is so good at it, and
very good.
I covered it in my video as well too. I talked about how he's experienced as a play caller, and I think that's the most impressive thing about him. Him being so young, he is so good at setting up play calls. There was a few play calls like, well, I mean, obviously we've seen Lombardi, right? He would come out and he had this script, right? He would come out. It was always sometime in the first quarter where he would run that reverse. That stupid raggedy reverse to DeAndre Carter, right? Mr. Slow-footed DeAndre Carter, right? You run it, and it gets ate up every single time. That is a play. Like, if you're just looking at it, right, that's a play that needs to be set up. When Andy Reid calls that's a play call that gets called in the third quarter, right? You show that action 6, 7, 8 times. Then you hand it off to the guy. Now you have 30 or 40 yards. That's something that Kellen Moore did very, very well when I was watching the tape. He would set things up. That's why I think Herbert, his legs are going to come back into the equation. I don't think he's going to run like Josh Allen, but a lot of those naked bootlegs, a lot of that action, where the offense flows one way and the quarterback just has the ball, right? He can either throw it down the field, or he has 20 to 30 yards to run in front of him, right? Get out of bounds or slide. I think Herbert, his legs are going to come back. That's what Kellen Moore does very, very, very well. He lulls the defense to sleep. And for him to be a young guy and for him to have that type of discipline as a play caller is really impressive, because you only really see that from an Andy Reid. You only really see it from, a Doug Peterson, right? Guys who have been there before, right? They have calls on their sheet. I'm not calling this until the second half. I'm not calling this until the fourth quarter, right? You have to be disciplined to not do it, right? There might be some areas where I can hit him right here. You have to be really, really disciplined. He sets that up very, very well. And I can just imagine Herbert having that, that type of offensive play caller, right? And especially when you have the trust in Herbert, right? He's not going to turn the ball over. He's not a Dak Prescott. You look at Dak Prescott, you look at all of the throw. He was throwing to wide open guys last year. It's ridiculous how he had so many interceptions, to be honest. Herbert, how many times do we see Herbert thread the needle? I don't know how many times I came on the channel
all the time,
breaking down. And he was threading the needle on 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, right? Plays that you have to have it. Those guys were running open. And when you look at Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, they're not the fastest guys, but they can shake a little bit. They can dance. They can get open. And especially with this offense, if they're going to be able to run crossing routes, be able to play off of each other's routes, there's going to be a lot of open area for this offense. I'm very, very excited for this offense. No matter how the defense looks, no matter what goes on, I'm excited to watch this offense. I think we're going to get back into the top 5, honestly.
Easy.
Easy. I agree. And to me, is about scoring more points. And the thing is, though, with the Cowboys, they have scored 30-something points 3 out of 4 of his years, I believe.
Right.
On average per game. That's massive, guys. I mean, realize that the Eagles and the Chiefs were at that same kind of level of scoring 30 plus points a game, basically. And they got to the Super Bowl. Big thing, they had one of the best offensive lines, or at least the Eagles had one of the best offensive lines and a very solid defensive line that they actually worked off. Bringing in Sue and Joseph also, too, to add to that line. But then they also drafted on the D line last year with Jordan Davis, too.
Yeah. That was the guy I wanted. Remember, I wanted that boy.
Yep.
Had a man crush on him. I'll tell you what, dude. That guy was
So, I mean, it is kind of an interesting discussion here because you start thinking, okay, do we just need to go O-line, D-line? Are we going to pick up boring picks on the O-line? Or are we going to go after some flashy kind of picks? It's going to be an interesting draft for us all around, guys. And, I mean, Tom Telesco talked about in one of his interviews, I think it was on Good Morning Football. He talked about we draft players for the future. So there is that kind of thing ahead of us that you think, okay, we do have a lot of talent on this team. We do have a few holes that we do need to fill with those early picks, but we also look to try to draft for the later on. People bringing up Tomlinson, the wide receiver, or excuse me, the cornerback from TCU, which, hey, he's a burner and everything. Yeah. To me, my opinion, I don't think we're going high on a cornerback, in my opinion. I think Jasir Taylor did a pretty good job last year. Asante Samuel Jr. is a stud. He really, he showed out in that playoff game.
Yeah.
I think that J.C. Jackson, we'll see where he goes, but we invested a lot of money in him, so we got to see where he lands. And Mike Davis, man, I mean, he saved that cornerback side.
Yeah.
I mean, he did.
Oh, yeah.
He was phenomenal for us. So, to me, I think we have enough depth. And to be honest, Dean Leonard, I mean, he played really, really well in camp. It was a different story when he was on field. It was really just about learning how to turn his head, seeing the ball versus just letting the ball become a penalty, basically, at that point. Right. So I think we're really set in the cornerback side of things. I mean, maybe something late, maybe for a gunner position on special team or something like that. I don't think we're really going after that, in my opinion. But it's going to be an exciting time. And remember, guys, free agency starts in about 9 days, I think it is.
That's right.
So it's coming up.
Yeah.
It's coming up.
So it's gonna be hot and heavy. Yep.
Going back to that Khalil Mack rumor going around, if he's going to get, cut or whatnot, it's going to be next week. It's going to be next week because they got to get some cap space open, man. So it's going to be interesting to see what really happens this time around, guys. And I'm excited about the draft. I'm excited about what we could do in free agency. I'm going to throw one thing out, though. If we do get a speedy guy, Trey Palmer from Nebraska is one guy that I've said in the late round, possibly third, possibly fourth round kind of guy, real fast dude out of Nebraska. And if we got Jalen Guyton out too, we'd have two speedy guys on our offense just in case one goes down, you got another one. That's really what killed this offense, in my opinion, last year. So it will be kind of a later round pick, in my opinion. If we could just kind of build up a good defensive line, build up a good offensive line, we'll be in the money, guys. We'll be going Super Bowl, baby. Let's go. Woo!
That's right.
We'll go win the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, in Raiders' house. Be the first one to win a Super Bowl in Vegas.
That'd be so sick. That'd be so sick.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
Just to piggyback off your point of the Khalil Mack thing, I think a lot of people don't understand the financials that go into what the NFL is. I mean, Khalil Mack, when you look at his seat, and this is the thing when you have such high paid players, right? You have to judge their seasons based off of the salary expectations. Yep. So Khalil Mack had a good year last year, very good year, because his salary was, I think it was $8.5 million, right? He took the not the pay cut, but he restructured to get that cap number down after the trade. Now we go to $27 million, right?
Yeah.
Between him and Bosa are taking up almost $60 million of the cap. Right. Both of those guys, injury issues, right? Bosa is not really an age thing. Khalil Mack is kind of getting up there in age, right, as far as the NFL years go. But when you're looking at those guys, $60 million, right, that needs to translate to 20 sacks, right, a bunch of pressures, a lot of forced fumbles. Like that, it has to translate there. And I get a lot of people really don't like, and I think this is where like us as like because we're all fans, right? We are all fans, and we're not, professionals when it comes to this. But I think when I'm watching your guys' channel, and it's something that I do, right, I can kind of separate my fandom that I have when it comes to what a player can do and how much money they're making, right, and how big of an impact they're having on the field versus how big of a salary cap hit that they are. And this is where I'm kind of going my separate ways, even on Twitter with some fans. Like, a lot of people, when they think about Khalil Mack, they think about him as a Raider. They think about him as an all-pro, as a linebacker, and as a defensive end. And he's just not that guy anymore, right? And it's fine. Like there's no way you can play this gladiator sport for 10 years and still be the same, right? It's obviously going to take a toll on your body. But when you look at the year that Khalil Mack had in 2022, 8 sacks, right, on $8 million is fine. Goes all the way up to $27 million, though. Like, I don't think that
Doesn't
is
count.
a smart. That's not a smart thing to do financially for the Chargers. And when you look at everything that this NFL is today, right, this is a offensive-based league, and this is why I made the video. Like, kind of, who is it? Is it going to be Keenan Allen or is it going to be Khalil Mack that's cut? You have to bring back Keenan Allen, right? Keenan Allen was hurt last year, but when he came back, he was hot. He was piping hot. And he's still a guy. If he stays healthy, he's a 90-catch guy. He's a 90 guy. He's never been a speed guy, so he's not losing anything. He still looks like Keenan Allen to me. He can shake, he can get open, right? Those 90 catches are much more valuable in today's NFL than the 8 sacks that Khalil Mack, got. And I get a lot of pushback, and a lot of people. This is like a narrative-based thing. They say Khalil Mack was double teamed because Joey Bosa was injured. Yep. Not true. 100% not true. I've watched the tape. I was just watching the tape last night. I think the weakest offensive line the Chargers went up against was the Indianapolis Colts, right? That playoff clinching game. They single Khalil Mack all game long with pretty poor tackles, right? And he had a sack that game, but I mean, I guess that could be credited to Nick Foles. He held onto the ball too long, but they handled him pretty well. He wasn't double teamed. So a lot of people are really coming into this thing like, oh, well, he was just double teamed as soon as Bosa gets back. No, your production as a player, as a pass rusher has to be on you. It can't just be on who you have on the other side, right? Sometimes you don't have anybody on the other side. Right. When you look at a Reggie White, when you look at a Lawrence Taylor, who was on the other side of those guys? We don't know. Nobody knows. You can't name it, right? They just went out there and balled. It didn't matter who was on the other side. So when you have a guy who is a generational talent, right, perceived as such, you got to go out there and you got to play. Doesn't matter who's on the other side. You got to affect the game, right? And your salary has to line up with your production. $27 million cap hit is a Nick Bosa type of cap hit. That's what and again, even with Nick Bosa, who's on the other side of Nick Bosa? Nobody can name him. I know it's Charles Nimanu or whatever, number 94. Nobody knows who he is. He's not a household name. We just know with Nick Bosa, when we watch Nick Bosa play, it's Nick Bosa. He goes out there and he gets it. It doesn't matter who's on the other end of him. So people kind of have to stop making these excuses. You got to be able to justify your salary, and you can't just be a big name person. We know Khalil Mack is a big name, but I want to see him justify that money. And if he can't go out there and get 15 to 16 sacks, then what is he doing, right? Why are we paying him all this money? We're just paying. It's just a legacy pay, right? It's kind of the Russell Westbrook type of argument, right? Oh, he's good. Well, we want to see something, right? What have you done for me lately, type of thing. So,
and it's a business, and it's about production as well. 100%. You said it perfectly.
And the big thing too is that Khalil Mack, he got 8 sacks, I think, last year, and then I think he had 3 sacks in the first game versus the Raiders. So think about that. So he had 5 sacks for the 16 more games. That doesn't add up at that point.
That's not good production. Yeah.
No, not at all. And so even to throw that out there with a comparison player who had a very comparable year, who was an ex-Charger, who we let go, Uchenna Nwosu, had a very, very similar year. And he signed for half. Well, dude, I think it was a $20 million 2-year contract. And he played the same level as Matt. So I mean, that's the thing. That's the whole thing about this, is that there's money situation with this, and there is a lacking of salary cap right now for the Chargers. I mean, we're talking like it's a done deal, but the rumors are out there. I mean, I'm hearing Raider fans saying, hey, we might be able to get Khalil Mack back, bring him with Max Crosby. Max Crosby's a dog, by the way, and I hate the Raiders, family trust. But he's a dog. He's a dog. I mean, he gets after the quarterback and has a high motor, and man, who knows if that's going to happen. I don't know. The Raider fans seem like they hate Khalil Mack just because he left. But
I mean, shoot, my mic.
Hello. Your mic just got limp, dude. Your mic just got limp, dude.
Yeah. Hey, they got pills for that, Kyle.
Okay. Yeah, you know a thing or two about that, old man. Shoot.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I had to say it. That was too good. That was too easy.
That was too easy. I left it open for you. Well, I was gonna say the funny thing is that like all the Raiders fans were hating on Mac. I was like, oh, he's terrible now. Like blah blah blah. He's so and so after he left the Chicago and went to the Chargers, but now after the fact that there's rumors that he is possibly going to go back to the Raiders, they're all for it now. They're all on board now. Like they're just like, man, do Raiders fans even know what football is about, man? I mean, like, geez,
No.
they just
Yeah. Well,
They already have an overpaid guy in Chandler Jones. They don't need another one on their team.
that's
That's
true.
not going to happen.
That's true.
No doubt.
Big
No
time.
doubt.
Big time.
No doubt. But I'm excited about this offseason. I'm excited about the draft and everything, guys. I don't know. I know we're going kind of a little long on this too, but maybe we just do the last little your last little comment about what's going on with this week and such too. So Andrew, you want to start it up?
Yeah. I would just say this, guys. I'm excited. I like Brandon Staley as a head coach. Again, I still, to your point, Derek, I think, Brandon Staley's done a good job being a head coach, but he still has a lot to prove on the defensive side of the ball. I think he needs to be more flexible. He needs to figure some things out. I'm so excited about Kellen Moore and where this offense is going because I think that man is a genius. Again, as fans, I'm going to say this right now. I do not think he's going to be here long. He'll probably be here 1 year. If we're lucky, 2. I would be shocked if he's even here 2 years. But my point is, I think we're trending positive, as Brandon Staley likes to say. We just got to clean some things up, right? And Brandon Staley stuck with his guys a long time, far too long. He should have fired Lombardi a while ago. Should have happened at the bye week. He didn't do it. He stuck with him. Didn't work out. We all know what happened. But I'm excited. I think we're trending positive. We just need to fill in the gaps. We just need a couple guys to fix the line, open some more gaps for our running backs. Same thing, wide receivers, all the above. We're missing just a few pieces. Of course, we say that every year as Charger fans. It's kind of frustrating. But I think this year is very similar. Dude, we got a stud quarterback, and we're lucky to have that. Like, there's a lot of teams that would love to have Justin Herbert, right? And we're lucky to have him. So that's my thoughts.
Kyle, you want to take the last your last thoughts? I'll take the third slot, and then we'll end it with our guest.
All right, yeah, that'd be perfect. Yeah. So I agree with Andrew. Like we are definitely trending positive as a team for sure, and like we have built the team. Like last year, we built the team that Staley wants. Now he built the coaching staff that Staley wants.
Yep.
So what's going to happen here is like, okay, if all fails this time, then Staley unfortunately has nowhere to hide anymore. So it's going to be all in his hands, in his head right now at this point. So we got to make something happen, or else we probably might see Staley go this year for sure. But then when I'm hoping that they're going to find someone good for this combine. Obviously, there's a lot of crazy picks out there. There's a lot of people that a lot of people are talking about early on. But now the landscape is going to change because of this draft, this combine, and come free agency. Actually, it's funny. I got a calendar recently, and it just said that free agency day is actually a new league day, and it's called that because literally everyone's getting moved around and shuffled around. It's a whole new league at that point. So
it's a good point.
Yeah. So what we're going to see. A lot of things happen in this offseason because obviously we got to get under the cap. We're going to have to draft some people. We already got a whole new, basically Chargers mentality going on here. And so when it comes to the this combine, man, actually I was going to say this though too. But when I did the charity event yesterday, Josh Palmer was there, and I did kind of talk to him briefly about the combine. About like how who he thinks should be picked up, or if he has any ideas about that. He said honestly, I didn't even realize the combine was going on. So so
players don't care.
The players, they're already in, so they don't need to look back at all that stuff. But but he said basically the same thing that we say. Whoever can actually start day one is who we need. And that's exactly in order to start winning. So, and that's kind of like my last thoughts on it. Like, I mean, obviously we all have our picks and our bias, but I think we're gonna have to leave it up to the people that we actually don't trust.
Yeah. I was gonna say for Josh Palmer, man, he probably wouldn't mind having another Tennessee guy like Jalen Hyatt
for sure.
there too. Adding that, camaraderie, same school kind of thing. But my last thoughts is that I think a lot of people get really, really angry about talking about players on our team and letting them go, cut, trades, whatever it might be. Guys, people have short careers. NFL stands for not for long, by the way. Yep. And people get shifted around all the time. And you know what?
Part of the game.
It's part of the game. It's part of the business. And we're not married. I mean, we're married to these players in a sense, but then there's a divorce at sometimes. And we just got to think that, hey, this talk about Khalil Mack, this talk about Keenan Allen, this talk about, Joey Bosa, whoever it might be that gets traded off or whatnot. People get pushed around and shoved around the league all the time. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen. This next week's going to have a little action for us. And I'm looking forward to being able to see what's really going to happen. I think it was Original One put in the comments talking about, hey, man, we could trade off Khalil Mack for a second-round pick. Hey, I would love that. If we had a one-year rental with Khalil Mack, traded off a second-round pick essentially to get him to get a second-round pick again this year,
that'd be so sick.
You understand what that changes in the draft plans for us now, guys. We can get
sick.
3 high-quality players in the first 2 rounds. That would be awesome. So either which way, I'm excited about what's going to happen for this next week ahead. But pass the mic over to you, Pigskin Addicts, Derek.
Well, yeah, just to piggyback off your point, that was a really good point. We're not married to these players, right? This is a business at the end of the day. And I think a lot of fans have adopted the Tom Telesco thing, right? Stay too long, stay on guys too long, right? Why was Jerry Tillery even on this roster this past season, right? Stay too long. And I think that's one of the things that just happens sometimes in the NFL. Guys have to move on, right? GMs, you have to move on. You're not going to hit on every player, and it's fine.
100%.
The only thing that exacerbates that is keeping a guy that they can't play for so long, right? And at that point, and I talk about it on my channel all the time, you're at a point where you're hoping and wishing. We don't want to be hoping and wishing. We need to get to a place where we know you're going to get this production from this player, right? Even if it's not a star, right? A guy is good on special teams, right? You want to know. You want to be in the know. You don't want to hope. You don't want to wish. That's where we are for Khalil Mack. A lot of people are hoping and wishing, but we have 2 years of data that says that he's not the same player, right? He had a decent year last year. It wasn't a Khalil Mack type of year. And then the following year before that, right, he was injured pretty much all season. So it's been 2 years that he hasn't been the same player. And normally when you get older, you don't get healthier, right? It's just not a thing. And that's just, for life as well, too. The older you get, the more problems you have physically. So it's nothing wrong with it, but you have to be able to cut your losses at some point. And that's what the Chargers don't really do. And I'm hoping I'm in a point where I'm hoping and wishing, but I hope that this is a start to, and whether or not it's Staley, whether or not it's Tom Telesco, I hope the Chargers get into more of a business type of mindset. I think a LA team should have a business type of mindset. You look at the Rams, right? Even though they're struggling now, they went all in for that Super Bowl, right? And that's what you do in business. You have to be able to go all in to achieve your goals, right? You can't really be married to people. You got to be able to move off people. They drafted Jared Goff. They traded him right away, right? You got to be able to move off of people. And this is what it should be. This is a LA team. You have to act like you're an LA team. Be able to make those big business decisions and be able to operate kind of as a big business. Let's get better. If you're not a guy that is going to, benefit us in the long run, we're going to trade you a year early than rather a year too late. And that's what the Chargers have been doing for so long. And I'm at a point now where like this current iteration, Derwin James, Joey Bosa, like the kind of the core guys that have been around since the last playoff win in 2018. If they don't get anything done this year, then I want to see significant change. How long do we have to see? How long do we have to keep wishing? How long do we have to keep talking about injuries, right? I want to see significant change. When you look at the Chiefs are the gold standard. They have no issue moving off of guys. They have no issue. They have absolutely no issue moving off of guys. And the way that they are currently constructed too, that should be something that the Chargers really go in after. When you look at their defense, when you look at their salary cap on defense, who do they pay? They pay Chris Jones. Chris Jones he was the best defensive tackle in the year. In the NFL.
He's incredible.
So that's the guy you want to pay. They pay Frank Clark, They don't pay him a big amount of money, but they do pay him. And when you look at it, Frank Clark is number 3 all time in playoff sacks. He needs like 2.5 more sacks to be number 1 all time. That's a guy you want to pay, obviously, right? He's proven himself in the playoffs, and they pay Justin Reed, the safety. So they pay those 3 guys on defense, right? And their defense is completely complementary to what Patrick Mahomes and the offense does. They're okay with it, right? Andy Reid is okay with it. Coach Spags is okay with it. They're completely complementary to what that superstar quarterback does. But when you look at the fabric, the makeup of that team, it is number 15, right? It's number 15. You got to build around him. And I think this is what the Chargers have to do. You shouldn't be building around anybody on defense. It should be number 10. You got to build around him. Make sure you build around him. If you do nothing else, build around him. Because if the Chargers had a top 5, top 3 offense, they can still make the playoffs with this defense being as bad. If there's nothing else happens on defense, no upgrades, they don't get better at all, you can make the playoffs and you can win a playoff game with a great offense and a shoddy defense, because that's pretty much what Kansas City's defense is. They're shoddy, right? It stops in certain areas. Frank Clark, a big sack here. Chris Jones, a big sack here. They make plays when they need to, but they are not the 2000 Ravens, right? They're not a team that's going to suffocate you. They are complementary to what the offense does. And I think that's what the Chargers have to do. There's no shame in copying another team, right? You want to be a copycat sport. This is how you do it. This is how you do it. You see the NBA, the Warriors took off, right? What did everybody start doing? Shooting threes now. Now that's the way to win in the NBA. So they have really set a blueprint. And you're not going to buck the trend just because you think, we have this guy, we're great on defense here. We're great. No, you're not going to buck the trend. This is what it is. This is the modern NFL. Have to step into the modern NFL. Got to build around number 10. He has to have the weaponry around him. That's just the only way that the Chargers are going to be able to do this, right? You can't go into this with the Phillip Rivers mindset. We've seen what happened with Phillip Rivers. It never worked out. He did not have enough. He didn't have enough weapons. Defenses were okay some years, but you have to stockpile. That's just what it is. You have to stockpile if you want to win. And I'm hoping that the 2023 season, I'm hoping that it gives us some clarity on what's going to happen, right? Whether it's Brandon Staley going forward, whether it's not him, whether it's somebody else. I hope that it gives us clarity going forward. And I hope the Chargers, I hope that they realize they need to build around Justin Herbert now. These guys don't come around. Justin Herberts don't come around like this, right? You're lucky to have this guy here. You're lucky to have your second consecutive franchise quarterback, right? You're lucky. We're in a position where we're lucky. We didn't have any gaps in that, right? We didn't do the Miami Dolphin thing and search. We got 2 consecutive starting quarterbacks, franchise quarterbacks. Let's build around him. Let's learn from our mistakes that we had, when Phillip was here. But let's build around him. Let's stockpile and let's put the game in his hands, right? He's shown that he can get us there. So let's trust him 100%. Let's trust him completely. Let's kind of shift from the defensive mindset to the offensive mindset and, let everything fall, right? Let the chips fall where they may. So I'm just looking for them to have some clarity this year in 2023. Like with Staley, without Staley, but whatever. But I just want to see what the future is going to look like going forward from there.
Absolutely well said, my friend. I mean, it's I mean, I could dig into that a lot more. I mean, you unloaded a lot in there, and I could have dug into a lot of that, by the way, man. And by the way, man, if you need us on your pod or anything as a guest or anything, we'd love to be able to be on your pod, man. And we're so stoked that you were able to be on this. This is actually one of my favorite pods so far that we've done, and you've been really, really enjoyable as a guest. So anytime you want to jump on, man, we love to hear from you. We love your critical opinion on things too, man. I mean, I could have jumped on a lot of different subjects than what you just talked about right now, but we're getting about an hour and a half into this one, my friend. But
well, okay, wait, we could have a technical break, and then we can come back again and just do another one right now.
There you go. Hey, Aether, by the way, man, glad to have you back, man. I hope you're doing well, man. Hope your health is going fine too, and everything based upon what you sent over to me. So I hope you're doing well, my man. He's got one question here too. I was just going to say one point. I know we're trying to end the show and everything, but one thing I want to say, Derek, is that, we are married to players sometimes. And Phillip Rivers is one of those guys. Obviously, he's a very, very good player. We really screwed up his career, in my opinion. We really didn't get him to where he needed to be. We did get to an AFC championship game with him, but we never really got over the hump with him. It just was kind of a downhill trajectory from that point. Going back to the 2017 draft, I mean, we went with Mike Williams on that draft. That was the same draft he could have gone for Mahomes. I remember Andy Reid specifically saying, man, I swear the Chargers were going to get Patrick Mahomes, and we did not. What has Patrick Mahomes done? 2 Super Bowl wins, 3 Super Bowl in total. Been to basically won the AFC West since he's been a starter. 5 years in a row, he's gotten to the AFC Championship game. I mean, he could become, sadly to say it, one of the greatest of all time. And he might have already been at that level at this point in his career. I mean, it's phenomenal what he's done. And by the way, we did pass on trying to hire Andy Reid. We went with Mike McCoy instead.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, once again, there's so many faults within this organization that it's just tough to be able to see. So, man, I could do a whole video on that, man.
Yeah, maybe we should next week. Maybe we should.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, man. So, Aether got one quick question here. I think he said either that or it was a question or a comment. I get the point about Herbert.
I like this comment though from Optimus Rhyme though, but this is the truth though.
And that's true.
Yeah.
That's completely true. Yeah. I mean, the system creates a quarterback too. Yeah. I mean, if you got a bad O-line, you got a bad defense, you don't really got any players around him. But then again, some quarterbacks can make a system look better too than it really is. So it could go 2 ways. It could go 2 ways. I mean, Andy Reid to me is one of the best offensive callers in the game right now. And I mean, that's straight up. But I'm going to say Kellen Moore might be one of those that's probably even the 3rd best, in my opinion, in the league.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's a good job.
We'll see where it goes. Aether brought up a thing. I get the point about Herbert, but Mahomes lost Hill and won the Super Bowl still. Bingo, dude. Lost talent. How many times did we talk about the Chiefs are going to have a restarting of their organization? It's going to be a clean slate for them. They ain't gonna win the AFC West. What they do? They dominated the AFC West still and won a Super Bowl. Straight up. So it's tough. It's tough, guys. But man, I know we went a little bit over. I appreciate it once again, Derek, for being on this pod,
Absolutely.
dude. It was awesome to have you on here. We love hearing your opinion. We watch your pod all the time, man. Keep the good work up, everything too. And we appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me so much. Looking forward to having you guys on my show here coming up here pretty soon. Just have to get a date, get some scheduling in. But definitely, this is fun. Can't wait to have you guys. We can really jump into some of the details here. Once some of the dust settles as far as free agency and stuff goes, we'll have a lot to talk about. So definitely
agreed.
Definitely
100%.
Yep.
So who's gonna hit the button this time, guys? That's always the argument, right? We never.
Yeah, it's always the argument.
Can't hit the button twice.
I'll press it. I got you. I got it this time.
I'll take my hands off the button.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's get it. Bolt Bros. Let's go.
Let's go. No, I'll tell it again.